The Community Innovators Lab is in the Department of Urban Studies and Planning, and we are essentially a planning laboratory. We work with community organizations around the country and in Latin America and the Caribbean as well. And we're working with sophisticated leaders who are trying to improve living conditions and livelihoods in their communities. And so we bring the planning discipline. We bring students. Our first project, as a matter of fact, was in New Orleans. It was, weeks after we were established, we got a grant to send a group of students down to New Orleans to work with the Office of Recovery Management. And they, fanned out across the city, these brand new, newly minted Masters of City Planning. And they fanned out across the city and worked with the Office of Recovery Management to create a plan to submit to the city for the recovery of New Orleans. It was a tremendously heady experience. And since then, our goal has been to work with community organizations that are dealing with pressing problems, bringing a combination of planning and business development and participatory storytelling, mapping, a set of skills that are fairly unique to the planning discipline, community development, and make it available to community organizations that have the will and the interest, but not necessarily the capacity to bring sophisticated planning skills to their projects. One of CoLab's core beliefs is that we are in a moment in time that is really unique in terms of city planning. We think because of changes in the environment, climate change and energy scarcity, resource scarcity more generally, that so much of what we understand and know about cities is going to change. The way we organize transportation, the way we organize housing, how buildings use fuel, how buildings are constructed, how, so many different aspects of city, urban life are going to change. And it's kind of like being at the beginning of the information age. Who would have thought that there'd be such a thing called Google, right? But these patterns and protocols and ideas are being established now for cities like they were then for the information age or back in the civil rights era. Going to law school was an amazing thing because you were setting the patterns for legal enforcement of the Constitution back in the 60s. So we're saying now that's what this moment is for cities. City planners are going to be making a lot of the protocols, a lot of the patterns, a lot of the ideas about cities now. So we're looking at three dimensions of city life. One is resource scarcity. How do you think about using resources more smartly, differently? The other is democratic voice. You've got to have all hands on deck to solve the problems of sustainable existence in cities now. It's not enough to only go to wealthy communities or to middle-class communities. Every corner of every city needs to be engaged in energy efficiency, in water management and waste management, because you can't just isolate one part of a city and make a sustainable place. So we want to figure out ways to have everybody's voice at the table. And the third thing is wealth generation, and this is a really important piece of this. Like the beginning of every new era, somebody's going to make a lot of money. A lot of people are going to make a lot of money figuring out how new kinds of value creation will occur in the context of environmental scarcity and all of these other dilemmas we're facing. And we want to make sure that there are opportunities for poor people, for people who have had low incomes, for neighborhoods that are marginalized, an opportunity for them to also create wealth. And so a lot of our work is around community ownership and worker ownership, enterprises and businesses that produce things for the market, but also create wealth for the communities in which they are created. CoLab has the great advantage of having access to the huge range of technical resources that exist at MIT, and so it's not just the planners that we can bring to support community development and enterprise development. It's We work with the engineering department, with the Center for Transportation and Logistics. We work with D-Lab on appropriate technology, particularly in poor rural communities. We work with the Sloan School on entrepreneurial, on entrepreneurial development. We really reach out across the campus to, anybody who is interested in working with engaged, excited, creative, innovative community organizations and really want to be part of positive solutions and ways of addressing poverty and environmental crisis. There are tremendous opportunities at CoLab to do that, and it's a very creative workspace. The people who work in CoLab and with CoLab are tremendously collaborative and really looking for other kinds of expertise to join with theirs. So it really, when we come into a community and say, we would love to support the work here, we're really bringing all of that, all of the strength of MIT to the table.